A narration about VR MMORPG is given, primarily focused on how one gaming company created the ultimate game VR MMO game, only for it to flop due to it being far too realistic. The story takes place 10 years after the fall of the golden age of VR MMO games. Hiroshi has a conversation with his teacher, Mr. Yasuoka, about his post-graduation plans in the faculty room at the Dull High School. He tries to coax Hiroshi to return to track running, however, Hiroshi is personally hesitant to do so. Outside, Hiroshi meets with his friend Takafumi and they talk about the pointless conversation he had with Yasuoka. As Hiroshi walks home, he has money extorted from him by two individuals he's acquainted with. Although upset that the day sucks, Hiroshi looks forward to obtaining the copy of Finalizing Quest, a VR MMO game that he reserved. But due to his string of misfortune, he's 1,000 yen short in purchasing the game and is unable to get the copy of the game. Lamenting over how he couldn't get the game he wanted at the cheapest price that he could find over the internet, Hiroshi spots a game store called Kisaragi. Inside the shop, Hiroshi spots a game that's 3 years old and then asks the female clerk if they have FQ22 in stock. Right as he was about to leave, a store clerk offers him to buy a game for 10,000 yen. Figuring it'd be FQ22, Hiroshi purchases it without hesitation. However, the game turns out to be Kavame Quest. Upset that it's not FQ22, he tries to return it, but is coaxed into keeping it after hearing that it's an adult-oriented game. At home, Hiroshi has an incident with his sister Keed and goes to his room where he starts up the game to play it. As the game begins, angelic lady with long brown hair claims that he as the hero must save the world of Aberdeen. The first task imposed onto Hiroshi is to leave the city and head to the Flora Castle. Awakening in a room, Hiroshi takes in the game's environment and compliments its realistic nature even to the point where he feels pain. A young girl by the name of Alicia then enters the room and calls Hiroshi by his game username Hiro. She claims to be his childhood friend and says that they were going to go apple picking that day. Perplexed, Hiro tries to clarify if he really is in a video game and when he's able to access the save screen. Just then, Martin, Alicia's older brother, enters the room. Martin laughs and gives Hiro an apple, and Hiro notes how even the apple's feel and smell is so realistic. Recalling the words of the angel who told him that he must go to the Flora Castle, Hiro asks the two how to leave the town to reach there. Panic-stricken, both Alicia and Martin try and dissuade Hiro from doing that, as the city guards would come after him if they heard that. On the other hand, Hiro is resolute in leaving the city, but is stopped by Martin. Because of Hiro's bit of amnesia, Martin explains how the town is isolated from the outside world because of all of the goblins that roam outside of the city. Confident that he'd be able to take on the goblins by himself, Hiro has his resolve tested by Martin in a sparring match with him. In it, Hiro gets beaten by him, and in a fit of rage, Hiro tackled Martin to the floor while he was eating an apple with a knife. Sequentially, Martin dies, and in a fit of rage, Alicia chases Hiro out of the house. Deep in the city, Hiro runs into the game store clerk lady named Riona, appears in front of in the form of a fairy. She then details that the collar he's wearing also states what his title in game is, and it reads Best Friend Killer. Right off the bat, Hiro is told by Riona that his gruesome title can't be revoked, nor can his data be erased or restarted. Obviously, one can't restart or erase one's life story in reality, which the game's whole system is based on, and the system runs solely on an autosave feature. Frustrated, Hiro asks for a refund, but she refuses as her store has a strict no-refund policy. Taking a more logical approach to their situation, Riona suggests they find another player named Ginji in-game to help them. When the game was released 10 years ago, he too killed his best friend. Before they head off to see the player, Riona has Hiro check his right pocket to find 30 gald and suggests they purchase some cheap clothing. Currently, rumors of the death of Martin have spread, and there is a wanted poster of his killer. So at the clothing store, Hiro purchases some clothes that were originally priced at 15 gald, but was inflated to 25 gald due to his criminal background. At dusk, they head to the casino where Ginji most likely is because of his gambling addiction. Eventually, they're confronted by a psychotic Alicia in a dark, narrow alleyway who plans to murder Hiro in revenge for killing Martin. Using the same knife that was used to kill her brother, Alicia goes on the offensive and Hiro manages to flee the scene. By a log cabin in a forest, Hiro gains a new title, and having grown tired of playing the game, he tries to log out but is unable due to still being in combat. Out of nowhere, Alicia appears and attacks Hiro with her knife, slicing the palm of his left hand. Coming to Hiro's aid, Riona attacks Alicia's eye, and Hiro once again makes his escape as Alicia vows to kill Hiro. Finally able to log out, Hiroshi is relieved but wonders how long it's been since he ran like that. The following day at Hiroshi's house, Riona sends Hiroshi a message to play more Kavame Quest with her. After his scuffle with Cade, Hiroshi logs back into the game. In-game, the wound on his hand is still there, and he finds a medicinal herb to heal his hand, but due to the game's realism, he's unable to figure out how to. At that moment, someone approaches Hiro. Hiro realizes that the man is Ginji, and after Ginji helps heal his hand with his herb, they go to the casino and talk business. 10 years ago, Ginji killed his best friend named Enrique using judo techniques. He then talks about his encounter with the only person who was able to beat the game named Kamui. Ginji announces to everyone in the casino that the wanted fugitive Hiro is there, much to Hiro's dismay. The city guards then arrives and inform the shocked Hiro he's under arrest. Panic-stricken, Hiro tries to run away, but Ginji uses a judo shoulder throw on Hiro and then restrains him. The city guard then take over and Ginji is paid some coin for his trouble. As it so happens, Ginji served 13 years for his crime and is currently on parole. Outside of the casino, Hiro is led by the city guards through the city. When the city guard stops in mid-place in the city, the onlookers then throw objects at Hiro while criticize him. From the distance, Hiro sees Alicia watching the scenario play out from afar and begs the guardsman to jail him. In the jail area, Hiro is told by the guardsman that he'll be left there until the preparations to his trial is made. Frustrated, Hiro tries to log out of the game, but cannot due to him being in the middle of a game event. An hour passes by and still Hiro is unable to leave the game. Plus, he starts to get hungry and has to pee. Cursing the game realism aspect, Hiro finds a pungent-smelling toilet, and right as he was about to use it, the ghost of Martin visits him. Martin's ghost proclaims that Hiro killed him, but Hiro claims it was an accident. Therefore, Martin demands that Hiro recite the promise he made with him under the apple tree. However, Hiro cannot recall what it was. A young girl named Mizurisa arrives and takes Hiro out of his cell and leads him to a special room. Hiro misinterprets the situation as an adult time event. In reality, it was a torture event. Inquisitor Mizurisa was going to saw off Hiro's limbs. Just then, Riona arrives at the scene and apologizes for her tardiness, as she was watching Castle in the Sky again. Although upset that's the reason why she was late, Hiro is still relieved that she can now help him in his predicament. Unable to take the pressure from his predicament or hold the fluid in his bladder, Hiro wets himself. In a state of euphoric bliss, Mizurisa compliments the urination as the best she'd ever seen and wastes no further time to start the torture, but is stopped by the guardsman from before. He reports the head of the city guard, Tesla, wishes to talk with Hiro. Unshackled from his restraints, Hiro finally logs out of the game and proclaims he'll never play the game again. Hiroshi returns to the real world in a panic after nearly going through a torture event in the Kawain Quest game. Immediately, Hiroshi checks himself to see if he had peed himself in real life, and to his relief he didn't. In the past, we're shown the incident on the track field that changed Hiro's life forever. At the start of the race, Hiroshi lags behind, and when he tries to push himself to go faster, he trips and falls onto the ground. Right as his friend Takafumi and teacher Yasuoka rush over to check up on him, Hiroshi urinates himself. This was the event that haunted Hiroshi to the present day and made him quit track racing for good. Back in the present, Hiroshi gets into an argument with his sister Kid over him playing his game loudly again. She also gets upset when he informs her that he's quit playing the game too. Katie gets even more enraged, stating how he always quits whenever things get hard. After school, Hiroshi visits Riona at her game store and tries to sell her back the game he purchased from her. However, Riona manages to persuade him from doing so and shows him a game guide website created by the only man who had managed to beat the Kawain Quest game, Soichiro. In it, Soichiro gives tips and tricks to all of Hiroshi's current problems in the game. However, all tips and tricks are completely unhelpful with Hiroshi's current in-game predicaments. Although frustrated, Hiroshi is convinced to continue playing the game thanks to a persuasive Riona. Returning to the game, Hiro continues where he left off the game and is led to where the head of the guards, Tesla, is at. With the help of Tesla, Hiro was found innocent of the murder of Martin, but still was chased by the villagers and stigmatized as a murderer. Later, they went to Melissa's item shop to buy smoke bombs. Eventually, Hiro and Riona returned to the house in which Hiro accidentally killed Martin to get his sword back. There he was ambushed by his former childhood friend, now bloodthirsty, Alicia. Hiro tries throwing one of the smoke bombs, but it just bounces along the floor without exploding. Riona tells him he was supposed to light the fuse before throwing it, and he complains. Alicia attacks him, but then unexpectedly, Mizurisa appears and saves him, telling Alicia that Hiro is her prey. Alicia demands answers from Mizurisa, who stopped her from acting out her revenge against Hiro for killing Martin. Mizurisa answers that Hiro is cleared of his murder charges by Tesla, and Riona informs Hiro that Telsa holds absolute legal authority within the city. Therefore, if Alicia insists on harming Hiro, then she'd be in violation of breaking the law. Elated by this turn of events, Hiro is curious as to why Mizurisa knew where he was. Admittedly, Mizurisa confesses that she was tailing Hiroshi in order to interact with him more, which irks him. Riona suggests that he ask Mizurisa to join their party. Hiro thinks favorably of the suggestion, but is caught off when Mizurisa proudly confesses that she merely tracked Hiro's urine scent. In a fit of agitation, Hiro is nearly attacked by Alicia, but Mizurisa saves him by pulling him away. Mizurisa challenges Alicia and the two fight. During the fight, Alicia drops her knife and, taking advantage of the opportunity, Hiro throws it out the window. However, as it turns, Alicia had two more and then dual-wielded them. Mizurisa then continues her fight against Alicia, but is still beaten by Alicia. Now in a pinch, Hiro recalls some advice Soichiro gave in one of his online walkthrough videos. Following said advice, Hiro gropes Alicia, but then proves futile and is then kicked in his chest. Down on the ground, wincing in pain, the ghost of Martin appears and Alicia relishes the feeling of her brother's presence. However, reconsidering what Kamui meant in his advice in this situation, Hiro confesses his love to Alicia and begs her to enjoy the rest of her life with him. This flusters Alicia, who then rushes out of the scene. Hiro then heads over to the Kindera tree, and there he calls out Martin and his ghost appears. From there, the two briefly talk, and taking Martin's hand, Hiro is shown a flashback of when he, along with Alicia and Martin, were kids. It's there that Hiro finally learns the promise that Martin imposed on him to remember. The promise being is that they be friends forever. With that, Hiro and Martin finally reconcile with one another, and Martin's ghost finally passes on. Gaining a new title, Hiro then notices smoke billowing from various parts of the city. Upon reaching the city, Hiro tries to ask a couple of citizens why the city is on fire, but they refuse to answer his question and push him to the ground. Riona then suggests asking the city's blacksmith to derust his sword and ask for any information on what's going on. Hiro goes to the blacksmith and learns that goblins have invaded the city because the moat that protected the city dried up for the first time in 50 years. Because the blacksmith doesn't want to stick around and derust Hiro's blade, he gives quick instructions of how Hiro can do it himself and leaves. After using the whetstone for a bit and hearing the screams of the citizens, Hiro's sick and tired trying to derust his sword and tries to go and fight the goblins himself. However, Riona stops him, claiming that goblins are as strong as ogres and the probability of him dying against them is 120%. Riona also reveals that if Hiro were to die in the game, his game and console would become irreparably broken. Furthermore, aside from admitting that Koame Quest is the ultimate shitty game, multiple lawsuits have been filed against the game company for this design flaw. Left with no other alternatives to progress the game, Riona suggests they leave the game for now and watch another one of Kamui's videos about the game. But before they leave, Hiro wants to take a peek outside and take a good look at the goblins, and in doing so, he catches the sight of a little girl being accosted by a goblin. Hiro tries to save her, but is held back by Riona, who tries to dissuade him from trying. At that moment, 3 city guards appear and try to protect the little girl. However, the goblin proves to be too much for them to handle. When asked if there has been anyone in the game that's been able to beat the goblin as new player, Riona answers that only Kamui and another player named Shohei, who in real life became a famous boxer. Still adamant to save the little girl, Hiro is advised to at least put on the blacksmith's pants to rid himself of the urine smell. Right as Hiro puts on his new pair of pants, the final city guard dies trying to protect the little girl. Wasting no time, Hiro runs into action and rescues the girl, only to be intercepted by 2 more goblins. With the goblins closing in on them, Hiro tries to distract them, but one of them knocks him out of the way and chases after the girl. In pursuit of the girl, Hiro unlocks a new skill that allows him to run in lightning-fast speed. Now at the city center, Hiro and the girl are confronted by 2 goblins, but Tesla arrives and deals with the 2 goblins with his lightning extreme sword attack. Tesla then orders his men to guide the young girl back home and to extinguish the fires that are blazing around the city. After Hiro receives a new game title, Tesla asks if Hiro would like to join the city guards as a mercenary. The offer elates Hiro and accepts it despite Riona's hesitance. With that settled with, Hiro saves and leaves the game. At home, Hiroshi watches another video by Kamui and learns that the quest route that he took has a survival chance of 0.1%. Soon after this, Hiroshi heads to his sister Kii's room and gives her his pudding and tells her that he's going to continue playing the game until he's reached a good stopping point. The reason behind his motivation is because he doesn't want to give up halfway on something like when he failed the track race that ruined his life. Kii, not caring about her brother's resolve, simply tells him off and slams her door shut. With that out of the way, Hiroshi enters the game and meets with Tesla and is guided by him to Queen Govern's mansion. Eventually, the group reaches the Govern's mansion, and after a brief introduction, Queen Govern embraces and wishes Hiro good luck on his goblin-slaying quest. Later at the training grounds, Tesla introduces Hiro to the soldiers as a mercenary, as well as 2 other hired mercs, Granada and Palu. Continuing his explanation of the situation, Tesla states that the Goblin's goal is to attack and destroy Queen Govern's mansion. Once his explanation is over, Tesla leaves the scene, and then Hiro, Palu, and Granada are taken care of by a guard by the name of Bob to their rooms. At Hiro's room, he talks with Riona, and once he's fitted with his armor, Bob arrives in his room. He informs Hiro that he'll be lead back to the training grounds to start his sword and martial arts exercises. Although Bob notes that Hiro isn't that muscular and asks if he was a warrior in the past. Disregarding that, Bob leads the mercs to the training ground where they're introduced to the instructor Amos. After Amos' introduction, a girl named Kathy approaches Hiro and tells him she was the one who led the little girl home. Before the two could shake each other's hand, Amos stops them and immediately spars with Hiro. The spar between the two begins, and Hiro is easily overpowered by Amos. However, Granada easily overpowers Amos, causing him to retire for the day. Hiro then tries to approach Bob and Kathy to eat some lunch with him, but they brush him off. At the mess hall, Hiro eats his lunch alone, noting that he's been ostracized by his peers. On day 2 of Hiro's merc training, he arrives on the training ground and Amos belittles Hiro's talent and has him do practice swings. As he does this, Granada mentions that Hiro killed his best friend and tries to start a fight with him. However, Kathy intervenes, asking Hiro to practice with her. The following day, a mock match is held and Hiro is pitted against Granada and easily loses against his opponent. This makes Hiro realize that his life in the real world isn't any different than his life in the game world. Hiro sits in the training yard with Riona as he laments how tough the game currently is. So Riona suggests that he reports everything to the consultation office. However, when he does, the worker there brushes Hiro's case off as his own fault. This is mainly due to him joining the mercs with zero skills in the field and suggests that he quit. Frustrated by how useless visiting the office was, Kathy then approaches Hiro and asks if he's alright. Hiro fibs, claiming he is. Relieved to hear that, Kathy details that the consultation office is mainly for illnesses and injuries. She also details that she's a religious person and prays to that world's god for solace and guidance, so Riona suggests they go to the local church and pray. This is in order to trigger a quest flag of the sort. However, when they arrive there, the priestess helps purify Hiro by dumping a tub of cold water on him and claims that he's been purified. Keeping a positive attitude, Riona continues to claim that Hiro's luck has now changed and tomorrow things will be better. Day 4 of the merc training, Hiro is still beaten in sword practice by Granada, and he along with Palu try and extort money from him after this. Following Riona's suggestion, he tries and go after the weaker-looking Palu, but is busted by him as well. When Kathy tries to get Amos to resolve the situation, both Granada and Palu play innocent. They then try and pressure Kathy to side with them, and she succumbs to their pressure, saying that she's not his friend and walks off with the two. Boisterously laughing at the situation, Riona comments how realistic the game is in that kind of situation. Although Hiro is despondent over his situation, Riona reassures Hiro that she'll use her fairy magic to help. The day of the merc training, Granada's boots are missing and he is notably livid because his grandmother made them. Soon the boots are found in some sewage water. Frustrated, Granada speaks to himself, who could have done this. Eventually, Granada's sword also goes missing and everyone in the base tries to locate it, but everyone is unable to find it. Afterward, Granada's sword is found in the latrines plunged into a toilet. After Granada pulls the sword from the toilet and vehemently yells at Hiro, blaming him for the recent pranks against him. Hiro denies that he's the one doing these acts, and the rest of the mercs stand up for Hiro, claiming he couldn't be it, as he's helped out looking for both his boots and sword. A woman screamed from the locker room and Maria, the nurse, is in a tizzy for her missing panties. Her panties is then found in Granada's bag, and Granada then snaps at Maria, claiming he'd never steal her panties. The other mercs then gang up on Granada for his attitude and insubordination. Seeing as there's no point in him staying, Granada turns to Palu to join him, but he refuses, leaving Granada emotionally overwhelmed. Later, Amos notifies all of the mercs about Granada's departure, and at that moment, Tesla arrives at the scene with a letter. The letter stated that Amos is responsible for the recent acts against Granada, and the one who sent it was none other than Palu. Both of them start to argue a bit until Telsa stops it and asks for the mercs' opinion on whether or not Amos is fit to continue being their instructor or not. Speaking out, Kathy claims that Amos is not fit for the job and confesses his and everyone else's attitude toward Hiro when he was bullied by both Granada and Palu. In light of this revelation, Amos is relieved of his position. That night, Riona reveals to be the one for the string of incidents that have occurred, and Hiro receives a diabolical new title. As intrigued for making it to that point in the game, Riona states the reason why she wants to find someone to clear the game. Riona tells Hiro that 10 years ago she met Kamui in the game. She approached him and asked him out, however, he flatly rejected her due to her bust size. This made Riona vow to get revenge on him by having someone else beat the game and marry the person. Hiro was surprised that was the end to the story. Riona confirms that it was and declares that when they get married, they flip Kamui off. Standing on top of one of the barracks, Hiro reflects on what he learned about Riona's reason for wanting him to complete the game. Tesla then joins him, and after he apologizes about Amos and Grana's behavior, they talk about the upcoming goblin attack. Tesla then asks Hiro if he plans to leave the city after the goblin attack, and Hiro reluctantly confirms it. Amused by the response, Tesla notes his interest in the idea, and Hiro asks if he'd join him. However, Tesla says he'll consider it. The way Tesla states his consideration makes Hiro think he may die during the raid and figures he better check the guide for more information. Awakening in his room, Hiroshi was shocked that his sister Keed was in his room closely gazing over him. This causes an argument to break out between the two, and Keed abruptly leaves Hiroshi's room. Hiroshi then watches Kamui's game guide and learns how to beat the goblin quest. Finally, on the 6th day, the day of the goblin raid, Hiro and the other merc all lined up within the courtyard. Tesla announces 2 new recruits for their campaign, Alicia and Mizuriza. Riona was notably elated for Hiro for getting his own harem. Hiro isn't pleased by this scenario whatsoever. Before the goblin raid, Tesla has the mercs scour the city for unlawful people who disobeyed the evacuation order. Hiro is confused that the goblin raid isn't happening, and Riona speculates that it must be an event that occurs before it. Tesla then approaches Hiro and assigns him the Eastern District to watch over where Genji is at. Also, Tesla assigns Alicia and Mizurisa to accompany him as well. On the streets of the town, Mizurisa mentions her concern with Alicia being a part of their group, mainly due to her past altercation with them. However, Hiro mentions his own distaste with her being around and makes Mizurisa cry. Suddenly, Alicia stops a purse-stealing thief by slicing off his right hand. Riona suggests that Hiro should return the purse for a reward. However, when he does, the owner faints due to the thief's disembodied hand still grasping onto the purse strap. More and more thefts occur around the city, and Riona notes how a person may be instigating them all. They learn from the thief that the instigator is at the casino, and their Mizurisa and Alicia deal with the thugs while Hiro rescues the hostages, one of whom was Genji, who mentions he was going to be sold as a slave. Once the thugs were dealt with, one of them reveals that Genji is the true mastermind, and sequentially, Genji grabs and restrains Hiro. Hiro frees himself from Genji's grasp, and the two are going to face off against each other. However, Alicia intervenes by knocking out Genji with a single punch. Afterward, every last perpetrator is arrested, and Genji compliments Alicia for her strength and capability. Once Genji and the other perpetrators are escorted from the scene, Tesla congratulates Hiro for a job well done. The alarm goes off, warning that the goblins have arrived. At that moment, Hiro's bladder acts up and he goes to use the toilet. Once he's finished, Hiro spots a goblin peering into the bathroom stall from the crack, and he freaks out. The goblin is then slayed by Mizurisa, who had followed Hiro to the bathroom. Although Hiro has some objections, he eternally accepts it. Mizurisa then asks if Hiro's sword is sharp enough to deal with the goblins. Hiro then shows it to Mizurisa to prove that it is, and when she takes it, she stabs Hiro's left knee, causing him to scream in pain. This gives Mizurisa a euphoric delight, and then tries to coax and seduce Hiro into torturing him. Alicia then arrives at the scene. Furious that Alicia ruined their time alone with each other, Mizurisa tries to instigate Alicia. However, Hiro stops them, claiming that's the time to fight and they should go and find Tesla. Reaching Tesla and his soldiers in the main center, Tesla and everyone in his command attack the group of goblins that surround them. Sequentially, Mizurisa and Alicia arrive, both of whom can deal with the invading goblins. Feeling that his chances of surviving the event are assured, Hiro's thoughts are changed when Bob and Kathy report that some goblins have breached the southern gate. The lead goblin of that pack, named One Eye, is the one Tesla is wary of. Accompanying Tesla, the two confront One Eye, and Tesla reveals his history with the monster. After that, Tesla fights against the goblin while both Mizurisa and Alicia arrive at the scene, and Mizurisa tries to attack One Eye, but is incapacitated by a single kick to the stomach. Upset that Mizurisa was incapacitated, Alicia joins the fight and fights on equal terms with both Tesla and One Eye. At that moment, a cage that Tesla ordered his men to retrieve arrives, and it contains One Eye's children. Showing a more dark and gruesome side of himself, Tesla attacks and kills One Eye. Queen Govern arrives, happy with the results that One Eye is dead. Furthermore, she reveals that they keep the goblins' children as hostages in order to keep the city restrained and shut out from the outside world. Now that the city's dark secret is out, he proceeds to try and kill Hiro. As Hiro thinks that he's no match for Tesla, his opponent reveals that there is another level to this special move Lightning Extreme called Lightning Extreme Despair. He uses the move against Hiro. However, Alicia takes the attack. Hiro then goes over to Alicia and asks why she saved him when once she tried to kill him, and she answers that her brother, Martin, told her in a dream to forgive Hiro. Stating how happy she was to hear that Hiro wanted to one day marry her, Alicia dies in Hiro's arms. Briefly consoled by Riona, Hiro reflects on the realism the game strives on and faces off against Tesla. Astonishingly, Hiro was able to fend off Tesla's attacks. In a flashback, Kamui reveals that the game has an unknown cheat of sorts. Basically, the player's emotions reflect their stats, so if they have an indomitable spirit to win, they'll have a greater chance against whatever difficult challenges lie ahead of them. Back in the present, Hiro fights against Tesla on equal terms until his sword breaks, and just as he's about to be killed, Hiro is transported to the Kinura tree where Martin is also at. There the two talk for a bit and Martin joins Hiro, and back in the present world, Hiro's broken sword transforms into a magical sword that breaks Tesla's sword. Hiro also gains a new title. The two then face off against each other, however, Hiro still loses in the end. Feeling demotivated in the end by his loss, Hiroshi goes back to Kemui's website and watches a video that details a special way to restart the game 1 hour before the player dies. Feeling remotivated by this, Hiroshi promises himself to restart the game 1 month from then and save Alicia from her demise. Filled with a newfound sense of confidence and determination, Hiroshi, with a brand new copy of the game, decides to delve into the game that's more real than real life.